Tips for storing dried onions for long-term use without worrying about them. Hello, welcome back to the Clever Trick channel. I lived for 30 years without knowing. I used to buy dried onions, leave them for a few weeks and find them soft, moldy, or starting to sprout. And that happened even when I thought I had stored them carefully. Have you ever experienced this? I have created subtitles in multiple languages. Please select your preferred language. Comment below and let me know which country you are watching from. It's amazing that we can connect from all around the world. Can last for months without mold, sprouting, or wasting. Are you ready? Let's get started. Method 1. Store onions properly. No washing, no covering. In the past, I had a habit of washing onions before storing them in bags. I thought it was clean, but unexpectedly, after just a few days, the onions started to soften and mold. Actually, onions are very afraid of moisture. Therefore, never wash onions before storing. Dried onions need to be kept in a dry, airy place away from sunlight and without air tightness. Use a bamboo basket, cloth bag, or mesh basket to let the onions breathe. Absolutely do not use plastic bags or tightly sealed boxes because air tightness will make the onions soft and moldy very quickly. Method 2. Use coarse salt to absorb moisture. This is a tip I learned from a relative in the countryside. It sounds simple but is surprisingly effective. Prepare a cloth bag or bamboo basket. Sprinkle some coarse salt on the bottom. Then put the dried onions on top. The salt will absorb moisture, helping the onions dry out, not rot or sprout. If the weather is humid or during the rainy season, this tip is especially useful. Method 3. Use a paper or cloth bag. Paper bags help keep the onions out of the light while still allowing air to circulate. Just remember, do not use plastic bags and avoid placing them in strong light. Absolutely do not use plastic bags or tightly sealed boxes because air tightness will make the onions soft and moldy very quickly. Method 4. Store dried onions in a rice bin. You just need to choose dry, firm onions that have not sprouted or been crushed. Where are you from? It's such a joy that we're connecting from all over the world. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, hit the subscribe button. Thank you for your support. A simple but surprisingly effective folk trick is to bury the dried onions directly in the rice bin. Then, gently bury them in the middle of the rice bin. The dried rice will absorb moisture, keeping the onions dry, not moldy or soft, and at the same time preventing sprouting. Then cover the rice with a layer of rice as usual. In addition, the natural pungent smell of onions also has the effect of repelling weevils in the rice, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. This method does not require a container, does not take up space, and is very convenient every time you need to use onions. Just open the lid of the rice bin, take out a few bulbs, and you're done. If stored properly, dried onions can stay delicious for several months. Method 5. Preserving dried onions with black plastic bags. A very simple but extremely effective way to preserve dried onions for a long time is to use black plastic bags. This type of bag has the ability to block light, preventing onions from sprouting, especially suitable in hot and humid seasons. How to do it? Choose dry, firm onions that do not sprout or get moldy. Put the onions in a black plastic bag. You should use a slightly thicker bag to block light better. If you want to increase the preservation effect, you can add a small bag of salt and a few slices of ginger to the onion bag. Salt and ginger will help absorb moisture and naturally fight bacteria. Place the salt and ginger bag inside the onion bag to preserve it. This is a folk remedy that is cheap, easy to do, does not require a refrigerator or airtight container, and still preserves onions for a long time. Tie the bag tightly, squeeze all the air out. Place the bag in a cool, dry place away from direct sunlight or high temperatures. With this method, dried onions can be kept for 6 months to 1 year without drying out, getting moldy, or sprouting. Method 6. Preserve dried onions by hanging them in a cool place. One of the most traditional, simple, and effective ways to preserve dried onions is to tie them into bunches and hang them in a cool, dry place. First, choose dried onions that are firm, not damp, and do not sprout. Use string or rope to tie the onions into small bunches. Hang them in a place with a light breeze, good air circulation, avoid direct sunlight and humid places. This way of hanging helps the air circulate evenly. The onions are always dry and airy, not condensing, thereby avoiding mold and sprouting. This is the way our grandparents have always done, especially effective in the rainy season. Just hang them in the right place. The onions can be preserved for several months to half a year, still retaining their natural deliciousness. If you have a kitchen attic, balcony, or a dry corner of the cupboard, try this method. Method 7. Don't store them with potatoes. This is a mistake that many people make without realizing it. When stored, potatoes produce ethylene gas. This gas stimulates onions to sprout. So keep onions and potatoes in 2 different places. Just a small change, but it will help you keep onions much longer. Method 8. If it's too humid, use the refrigerator properly. It may sound counterintuitive, but if you live in a very humid place, like in the north in the spring, you can store onions in the refrigerator. Just remember to wrap the onions in an opaque paper bag and leave the bag slightly open to prevent condensation. Method 9. Store dried onions in a sealed jar. First, remove any damaged or soft bulbs. Where are you from? It's such a joy that we're connecting from all over the world. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, hit the subscribe button. Thank you for your support. Then, peel the shallots. After peeling the dried onions, if you don't use them all right away, you shouldn't leave them out for too long, because the onions can easily become dry, soft, or even sprout or spoil. Here's a simple and effective way to store peeled dried onions. Put the peeled onions in a glass jar or plastic box with a tight lid. Put them in the refrigerator. It's best to use them within 3-5 days to preserve their flavor. This method helps the onions retain moisture, not dry out, and not absorb odors from other foods. Method 10. Store dried onions in the freezer. If you want dried onions to last a long time and still be convenient to use every day, storing them in the freezer is a very effective option. How to do it. Put the onions in a food container or a Ziploc bag, squeeze out all the air, and close the lid. Place them in the freezer. This method helps the onions not sprout, not get moldy, and especially retain their flavor after many months. Each time you cook, just take out a sufficient amount and put it in the pan right away. No need to defrost, very convenient. Onions stored in the freezer can be used for 3 to 6 months, even longer if you use a good quality sealed container. Method 11. Soak onions in vinegar. Put the peeled onions in a jar. Pour white vinegar into a large bowl. Add filtered water. Then add sugar and salt and stir until dissolved. Pour the mixture into the jar until all the onions are covered. If you like spicy food, you can add a few slices of chili. Cover the lid tightly, leave in a cool place, or put in the refrigerator. After 1 to 2 days, you will have lightly pickled onions, delicious to eat with fried, grilled dishes, or vermicelli, pho. This is also a way to preserve for over a week in the refrigerator. You see, just a few small tips, a few changes in the way onions are stored, you can help dried onions last for months while still being delicious as new. If you have your own tips, don't hesitate to share them in the comments section. I and everyone will be happy to learn more. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe to support me. I will continue to share useful tips like this every week. Thank you for watching until the end. May you always be happy, healthy, and your kitchen always filled with the aroma of cozy